What is that? Well, isn't that something? Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Horror Movie Syllabus. My name is Professor Victor, and I'll be your host as we go through all of the essential, noteworthy, interesting, and notorious modern horror films. If you're new to the channel, I recommend you check out the introduction video. There's a link to that in the description below, and it's going to give you a pretty good overview of the horror movie syllabus and what we do here. Basically, we look at a particular subgenre of horror, and then we pick 3 movies from that subgenre to explore. But this is our Is It Syllabus-Worthy series. This is where I take a recommendation from you guys, something that you've left in the comments to one of the videos, something that I haven't seen before, a horror movie I haven't seen before, and I watch it for the first time, and then assess it, let you know, is it syllabus worthy? Is it worthy of being on the horror movie syllabus? And if you haven't somehow seen the thumbnail or the title of the video, the movie that we're looking at today is Something in the Dirt. And Something in the Dirt got recommended a couple times in our video on Synchronic. Synchronic, which was a movie we did an Is It Syllabus Worthy video on a while back. And this movie was recommended by Gracie Peanut Pie and L.S. Gregor, aka my buddy Lee, both friends of the channel, and they both recommended this because Synchronic is a Benson and Moorhead film. And as you know, if you've watched the channel a lot, I love me some Benson and Moorhead. They never do me wrong. So when they said, hey, this is the latest Benson and Moorhead, well, that's all you had to say. You know, that's a winner for me right there. So this is one that I was pretty excited to watch. I was going to watch this anyways. You know, it's Benson and Moorhead, so I'm going to check this out. We've talked about Benson and Moorhead on the channel a few times. We talked about Spring. We talked about The Endless, and I know we're going to talk about them again in the future. So there is a lot to like about Benson and Moorhead. There's a lot that makes them syllabus worthy. So I have high hopes going into this movie, but I don't know anything other than Benson and Moorhead. But that alone is enough to get my hopes up on this movie. So of course I went in blind other than Benson and Moorhead and dove right in. And did I like it? Did I hate it? Let's find out. Like I said, the movie that we're looking at today is Something in the Dirt. Something in the Dirt came out in 2022 and comes from the filmmaking duo of Benson and Moorhead, Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead. Hopefully I'm getting those 2 names straight. And they are great filmmakers, and they've made this movie during the pandemic. And that's something we're going to dig into as we go into this movie, because it's noteworthy and it informs a little bit about how this movie works. And how this movie works is very, very interesting. But we're going to get into all that in just a second. First, if you haven't seen it before, the movie is about a young man who winds up moving into an apartment building and meets his neighbor. And they're both a little strange and a little off-putting and a little weird, but they wind up bonding pretty quickly and becoming friendly. And then they experience some strange paranormal phenomenon in the apartment, the new apartment that the guy has moved into. And as a result, they decide to try to deduce what's going on and do it in a form of a documentary. They band together to become documentary filmmakers to document what's going on with this phenomenon, and they have all kinds of interesting theories, and things start to get more and more interesting and then out of control, and tensions build and hijinks abound. And we're going to stop there so as to not spoil the movie for you. But what you have to understand right at the get-go is that this movie is a very low budget, small affair, and that's part of what makes it work really, really well. Like I noted, Benson and Moorhead were making this movie during the pandemic, so they had some limitations in terms of how many people they could use, where they could go, things like that. So they basically filmed it in one of their apartments with a very small crew of people, about 12 people. And it's mostly just the 2 of them in the movie, playing the 2 leads. And they are great. Now, here's the thing. They act in a lot of their movies and stuff like that. They're no strangers to acting. And they're pretty solid, capable actors. And in this case, they're very good because they have to carry this movie. This movie is very dialogue heavy, and I mean that in a good way because the dialogue is captivating. It's very interesting. This whole movie hinges on chemistry of characters and interesting dialogue, and it works very, very well. You have the 2 characters kind of bonding really fast. And it's interesting because this bromance between the two of them and the friction that inevitably comes out between the two of them is the heart of the movie. It really is the crux of what makes this movie work. And Benson and Moorhead really bringing it their A game and selling this. Now, it probably helps that they are friends in real life. They are partners in real life. They work together. And so that chemistry comes through and it crackles on screen. It really does. They really have a great chemistry. And then, like, when there is the friction, it really works. And, like, again, I can only imagine that Benson and Moorhead, when they were filmmakers, when they're making a film together, have these kind of arguments and have this kind of friction sometimes, because it felt very authentic. It felt very, very realistic. And it's interesting because, again, this movie is very heavy on like science and theory and theories, and it's also bleakly, awkwardly funny. Like, the dialogue in this it's got this dry humor to it that is just kind of, it's not like it's black humor or morbid humor. It's just kind of bleakly funny and I almost ironic, and it's kind of hard to explain, but and it may not hit for everybody. It may be the kind of thing where not everybody finds this movie funny, but I found this movie to be funny at times in a really fun and refreshing way. I liked these characters. I liked hanging out with them, even though each of them have some mysteries that kind of shadow their past and stuff like that, and give you some pause on whether or not you like them. More on that in a little while, but it's interesting to know that they have these two characters that are kind of well-rounded and well thought out, and you buy into them. You buy into that chemistry. Like, that, the energy on screen really works, and that's important because most of this movie is these two guys talking. That's most of the movie, and that may feel boring to some people. It wasn't to me. Utterly captivating. I was so into this movie for the bulk of it, and one of the things that really worked about this is the way the movie set up. Like I said, these guys, Benson and Moorhead, are a filmmaking duo, and they're playing two guys that become a filmmaking duo. They're making a documentary. So this movie becomes a mockumentary at some point. It goes from like being kind of your standard, stereotypical movie to becoming a mockumentary, and then at points becoming recreation, like reenactment of events. And this is all part of the story. Like, it all makes sense in the story, and that's cool. Not only is it fun from like a kind of a meta nature, like I tend to like meta stuff, and that meta aspect of it, like filmmakers becoming, playing filmmakers who are also playing filmmakers, like that's kind of fun. But it also kept the movie feeling fresh. Like I said, this movie is dialogue heavy, and it's just two guys talking for a lot of it. But when they kept changing up the format of it, at these particular moments in the movie, that kept it feeling fresh and interesting, and kept it moving, and kept it visually interesting to you, to me at least. And so I liked that. The filmmaking in this movie is really, really solid. Like, right off the bat, they start you out with a mystery, and I don't know, I was sucked in immediately. Like, you get, Moorhead's character just laying on the ground in this apartment. He seems disoriented, and you don't know what's going on. He's looking around, he's finding weird stuff, and then he goes out and meets this guy, and it's just like, right off the bat, you're like, what is going on? And then you get some exposition kind of filling in the blanks, and the exposition feels very natural. Like, it feels like two people meeting each other, having a conversation, and kind of it's talking about themselves and stuff like that. So it felt very natural. And like I said, they have a chemistry that works. So when they're having these conversations, you're just kind of enjoying the conversation and the rhythm of it and the jokes and things like that. And so you're kind of getting the exposition in kind of a natural way. It doesn't feel so exposition heavy. It doesn't feel like kind of tedious and clunky, because it feels very natural and very real. And the idea that they have this supernatural aspect or metaphysical aspect, it's a little unclear, and that's kind of the point, is you don't know what's going on, is fun, because that is Benson and Moorhead's kind of calling card. They deal with kind of sci-fi horror stuff, cosmic stuff, things like that. There's a lot of stuff in there that is in their movies that is kind of weaving together science fiction and horror, and this movie is no exception to that. And so you have this kind of sci-fi meets the paranormal, or maybe even the occult aspect of the movie, and it's very smart. Like, the movie is not really going to talk down to you. It's going to spell out its theories and kind of talk about the different, like, mathematical ideas and scientific ideas that they have to explain what they're seeing going on in this apartment, and it works. And again, they don't dumb it down really, so it can be challenging. I wasn't following everything, and I think it's okay. I think you can still go along for the ride even if you're not following everything that they're spitting out to you in their diatribes about various theories. But I think it helps if you do. I do think that it's nice that they're making a movie where they expect the audience to keep up, and they are just, giving you this information. But it can be challenging. It can be challenging for people. I can imagine some people find it a little bit dull. And they set up a lot of things that admittedly don't always pay off. Like one of my nitpicks about the film is that they have these loose threads that they set up, and some of them don't really pay off, or the payoff seems very disproportionate. Like one of them has like a criminal background that seems like it's going to be very important in the movie later on, and then when it comes out, it doesn't really seem to have much of an impact at all. The other one has this kind of weird, the kind of shady religious background that again feels like it's going to inform things or make things. Other than for some character motivation purposes, it doesn't really seem like it matters too much, you know. And then there's some things that get focused on this movie that don't exactly pay off or don't pay off the way you would expect them to pay off. Like one of the characters likes to go out onto the windowsill and smoke his cigarettes, and he props the window up with this like little stick, and they keep making it very prominent and showing it, and you're just expecting something to happen with it. And I guess technically something kind of does happen with it, but it's not at all what you're expecting. It's not, you know, it's like Chekhov's window stick that never goes off. You know what I mean? It's weird, but this is a minor nitpick because I'm so captivated by what's going on in the movie and the mystery and trying to solve what's going on that I don't mind if these things don't really come to fruition. It's a little bit messy, and I don't care because the movie's a little bit messy in general. Like the theories going around and everything like that is a little bit messy, and it doesn't resolve in a tidy way. There's no tidy resolution to put a bow on it and explain everything to you. It's a messy resolution too. So if you're one of the people that needs to have like everything spelled out at the end to feel satisfied, you're not going to be satisfied here. It's going to let you kind of wonder things. In fact, the movie even ends with an idea of, you know, the answer still needing to be pursued. I don't want to go into too much, obviously, but it is interesting to see what they did in terms of resolving it or not resolving it, as the case may be. It's an interesting choice, and it is definitely a choice. It's definitely by design. I don't think it's that they didn't know how to end the movie. I think it's that they wanted this movie to be open-ended, to leave you thinking about it, and it did. It left me thinking about it. And you know, going back to the way they made this movie, they wrote this movie and they filmed this movie in their apartment, and they had their friends there. There's a small handful of friends, many of whom are in the movie as minor characters. And it's interesting that they had this ability to talk about how the movie's being made. And by the way, the movie's made wonderfully. Like Benson and Moorhead have a way of making movies look more expensive than they are. They make low budget movies and they look really great because they have a good eye. They do some wonderful camera work here. The movie's wonderfully shot. It really looks good. And then it looks not good when it's supposed to not look good, but they really do a good job of making things look really cool in this movie, really interesting, visually arresting. So for a movie that is so static and has, you know, very few locations and very few characters and things like that, they do a lot to make sure that your eye does not wander, that you don't get too bored or anything like that. However, in the middle of the movie, it does drag a little bit. It does drag a little bit, but then they have like, you know, the mockumentary aspect of this, where they have like the editors talking, and the editors talking about coming in and trying to fix the movie when they kind of got off track a little bit. Right around the time that I started feeling like the movie was dragging a little bit and was kind of spinning its wheels, an editor comes in and tells me, "I'm here to fix the movie and make sure it's a little tighter." And I thought that was hysterical. Again, it kind of a meta idea. It's like they kind of know that the movie's dragging a little bit at this point, and they're literally going to come in and shake it up and tell you, "No, we got this, we're good." And I loved it. Like just when I thought the movie was losing me, I was right back in. And it's stuff like that, that meta aspect of that made this movie a cut above. It's already interesting just because it's tackling some really interesting subject matter and asking some really fascinating questions. And it's got two captivating leads that are really working for me. But I do think that having that meta aspect of it took it up a notch for me, made it more interesting. Being Benson and Moorhead fans, or being a fan of theirs, is a big key for why I think I like this movie so much, because I felt like I got a peek into them making this movie, because you know, it's two filmmakers making a movie, and it's about two filmmakers making a movie. So I really liked that. I really liked this peek into what I think is probably their actual relationship, you know, minus a lot of the dramatic aspects of the characters' relationship, of course. And them just kind of like putting all of this on screen, and it papers over the shortcomings of the movie, like the pacing in the middle gets I talked about by an editor, the effects, the special effects not being super duper great also gets talked about, because it's explained about recreations in the movie, and there's actually like a visual effects guy talking in the movie about putting visual effects into the movie. It's wild. It's wild how they found narrative reasons to explain the shortcomings they had, presumably due to A, no budget, and B, filming during COVID. Like, just, you know, seeing, you know, in a period of time when everybody was making their sourdough breads or whatever, these guys really, like, their creative juices got flowing, and they found a way to do it. And it's not that it feels like weird because it was made in COVID. It's just more like more impressive to know that they were able to pull this off in COVID with the limitations that were going on at the time to make this movie and make it work is pretty cool. Like it's really neat. Like both mostly I'm just kind of enamored with Benson and Moorhead and what they managed to do here. But I also found the movie to be very captivating, very interesting. The mystery drew me in, and I like the way it ends. I know that maybe not everybody will feel the same way, and if you've seen it, you may not. And if you share in the comments what you feel about that, I'd like to know. But I really, really liked what I was seeing. So you can probably already guess which way I'm leaning, but let's ask the question anyways. Is it syllabus worthy? Let's find out. So is Something in the Dirt syllabus worthy? Oh, yeah. Yeah, it absolutely is. The challenge is trying to figure out where to squeeze it in. It's not really clear to me because it's a hard movie to categorize. It's hard to figure out which subgenre I would want to place this into. And I mean that as a good thing. The fact that this movie is not easy to pigeonhole into some particular category is a good thing. A movie makes it feel a little bit more unique and interesting. And so there's a couple of ways you could go. You could maybe talk about it being a mockumentary, but it really is not a true mockumentary. And so I would quibble with that. You could put it in horror, sci-fi. That's probably a pretty solid place for it. You can maybe put it in mystery. There's a pretty decent mystery going on here. So there's a couple categories or a couple subgenres that you can put into. There's some other subgenres that I could maybe put it into, some other ideas I have, but I don't want to say them because I feel like that's potential spoilers for the movie or potential spoilers for some of the theories that get talked about in the movie. So I don't want to say that, but there's a number of different places that I could probably squeeze it in, and I think it would be worth the effort to try to find a spot for it, to try to find a place to squeeze it in. I like this movie a lot. I liked it enough to try to do that. The one caveat though, this movie is not the best Benson and Moorhead movie. I want to be clear about that. Like, it's not as good as Spring. It's not as good as The Endless. There are other movies that are better. But here's the thing: I have not had a bad experience with Benson and Moorhead. I have not. So that's another reason why I would probably try to find a subgenre to get in there. Now, I mean, it's my set list. I could have just made a Benson and Moorhead subgenre if I wanted to. The problem is there's not enough movies, and some of them I've already talked about, so didn't do that. But they're that good, man. They're that good that I would be willing to even entertain that. And so, small problem to try to figure out where to put this movie. It's definitely worth putting it in. And like I said, it may not be the best one. It may not be a perfect movie. It's got its flaws, but to me, the flaws were definitely outweighed by the benefits or the positives of this movie. And I think it was Lee in his comment who made a point about the script and how the script is kind of imperfect, but with Benson and Moorhead delivering the lines, it works, and how it's part of their charm is that their scripts are never perfect and that they're maybe a little bit messy and and it gives it a little authenticity and stuff like that. And I 100% agree with Lee on this. I think that their writing and their delivery and execution of their films isn't perfect. It isn't super clean and everything, but that's part of what makes it work so well. Like, it gives it a little bit more of an authentic feel. It makes it feel more relatable, and like you can connect to the characters, whether it's Benson and Moorhead or somebody else in the movie. You can connect to them a little bit better because they feel more real. It feels like it's got a little bit more of an authentic or real or tangible, palpable feel to it, rather than like a slick Hollywood sheen of something like like A Quiet Place or something like that. And that's not to disparage the Hollywood sheen movies like Quiet Place. I like those a lot too. But it's nice to have these, especially for low budget movies. It really works to help make the movie resonate. This movie resonated for me for sure. I liked it very much. Obviously, I'm pretty enthused about this. And again, I'm sure a lot of you have seen this and probably have thoughts about it too. Two of you, Gracie and Lee, recommended this. So obviously, you guys like this movie. And talk about it in the comments. Let me know, like, what did I not hit on? What are the things about this that I'm not hitting on that were really cool? Because I thought this stuff was awesome. I thought everything was really good. I enjoyed this movie very much. I was buzzing after I watched this movie. So if you haven't seen it, clearly, I think you should. And just be aware, it may be a little bit of a slog for somebody who needs a little bit more action or something like that in their movies, because it is very dialogue heavy. But if you can roll with that, if you're like really interested in like science and the occult and theology and just kind of thinking about the universe and our place in it and things like that, this movie might really be for you. So high recommend from me. Check it out. And now it's time to check out a horror trivia pursuit card with me. As you guys know, I like to read a horror trivia Rusu card live on camera, try to answer without cutting it so you can see that I knew. And because of Something in the Dirt, it's kind of a psychological horror movie. Let's go with the psychological category on the card. And here is the question. What root does Minnie Cassavet claim causes the odor of the pendant she gives Rosemary in 1968's Rosemary's Baby? I am pretty sure I know the answer to this question. I'm pretty sure. I think that I remember this because, like, I'd say 90% sure. And the reason why, first of all, Rosemary's Baby, it's a classic. We did talk about it on the channel, even though it's pre-1970. It's pre our cutoff. We talked about it because that's how good that movie is. That's how influential and important that movie is. We talked about it anyways on the channel. And as you know, I think it's a fantastic movie. It's excellent. It holds up extremely well. And it's a masterpiece that you should see for your horror education. And I'm sure a lot of you have. But I would not normally remember this detail at all, other than I was trying to work on a video project where it was going to be kind of a little bit of a spoof of Rosemary's Baby, and the root that they're talking about in this question was something that I was going to bring up in my little spoof, which never got made, unfortunately, and I don't know if it ever will. If it does, you guys will know because I'll be posting it on the channel because it's a really fun idea, but too many logistical problems to get into that. Anyways, I digress. The root that we're going to talk about in that video is the root in this question. And so I remember from that. I'm pretty sure I remember from that. Otherwise, I'd have no clue. This one would have been like, oh, I do not remember this at all. But just so happens to be that I was going to make a joke about this, like making using this root for something in the spoof. So I'm pretty sure I've got it. And I've kind of put it on to give you a chance to get it. So lock in an answer. I'm going to go ahead and make my guess. Ready? Okay. I'm going to guess tannis root. I believe, is it tannis root? I'm pretty sure it's tannis root. And I'm pretty sure I'm right on this because, like I said, I was going to make this joke about using tannis root and like making like smoothies and like kind of like these MLM stuff. Long story. Anyways, maybe we'll do it one day. But tannis root, that's my answer. So let's check the card. Tannis root. Yep. I got lucky on that one. I'll be honest with you. Just pure dumb luck that I remembered that. Otherwise, as many times as I've seen the movie, as much as I love the movie, I wouldn't have remembered that one. It's a good question because it's kind of a little bit obscure, but it's still kind of a major plot point in the movie. So, good question. I like that one. Did you get it right? And if you didn't get it right, what did you guess? Did you guess Stephen Root? Because that'd be kind of funny. Anyways, let me know wrong answers in the comments because I think they're fun to look at, especially if they're funny. Thank you guys very much for checking this video out and staying till the end. Thank you to Gracie and Lee for the recommendation. It was a slam dunk winner. This was a great movie. I really enjoyed it. If you guys got other recommendations that you want to offer up in the comments, please do. If I haven't seen it, I'll add it to the list. Maybe we'll check it out in a future video. But until then, I'm just going to say, class dismissed. Hey, are those crystals?